Ooh, caramel notes. So the netting, are you keeping that, or does that come off when you have guests?
Oh no, that goes on to protect against the birds getting the fruit, and we just started putting it on. We've been in a drought. This has been hellacious the last couple of years. We had a terrible freeze in 21. Believe it or not, there was 6 inches of snow. We'll go through the vineyard and I'll show you, but the Black Spanish, my red grape that I grow here, did pretty well in those conditions. The Blanc du Bois had a lot of tissue damage, and in 2021 we cut them down to the ground.
When you cut them down, do you need to wait several years for them to come back?
Well, they start coming back up in the spring.
Are they producing at that point?
Yeah, I mean, you'll see. I'll show you. The good news is the wines are better than ever, so which you'll taste.
Because of the stress?
Yeah, well, yeah. When we met, when you came in here, I was very excited about your plans to work the soil and particularly start a vineyard and do a winery and to make wine the way I make wine, which is completely natural. I don't add anything to it. I don't add yeast. I don't add acid, sugar adjustments. I don't add sulfites. I bottle it unfined, unfiltered. I'm not saying necessarily that that's a better way to do it. Maybe it's not for everybody, but in my opinion, it's the most authentic way to do it. When you drink my wine, I want there to be a direct connection between what's in your glass and what's in my vineyard. I tell people every year when you're making wine, have a vineyard, every year is like, I would imagine, being a teacher. And this might be the year that you've got an Einstein in the class that you get to work with. So, and that's one reason why I can't walk away from this, because you never know, this might be the year that I do something that I think is outstanding. This is Blanc du Bois, and then this starts Black Spanish here, and I've got like 9 rows of Black Spanish, and then some more rows of Blanc, and then the very end is more Black Spanish. So you see these vines. Look at the trunk on this. It's huge. That was a 21-year-old vine. That's Blanc du Bois. 75% of the grapes that go into the making of Texas wine that comes from Texas grapes, those grapes come from the Lubbock High Plains area. There are a lot of wineries in the hill country, but nowhere near enough grapes to support the industry. When I do the Verjus, I pick them like that when they're green. They're really kind of small this year. They just don't have a lot of liquid in them, but see, those are starting to change color. And when these are harvested, you can come out and pick, but when they get harvested, they'll be black. They'll be black, just almost bluish, hence the name Black Spanish. We cut all this down last year, and this stuff this what you're seeing here has grown.
Wow.
So that's a good intuition about the roots. You don't want to cut them when they're during the growing season, because all the xylem, it's like the blood of the vine will start coming out. It'll look like glue oozing out. But when they're dormant, they don't tear like that. If this has some disease, it could be transferred to this, and the whole thing's a problem. We'll just have to see. But sometimes this is what you got to work with. And as you say, you got to be careful weed eating, because you may be just destroying the future of that vine and you certainly don't want the line to hit it.
You bring the weed eater right on the mature trunk?
You can get pretty close to that. That's pretty durable. It's pretty durable.
So you have this one field And then you have a couple other areas?
No, just this.
Just this field?
Just this, 3 acres, 3 acres.
Oh, great.
Let's go over to the other side, and I'm going to show you. There's a press. So here's the world's tiniest winery. But you're getting ready. You're going to taste some really good wine. I'm very proud of these.
Okay.
So this is a wine thief. All of these wines have beautiful color. So this is Ruby Cabernet. We're going to get some of this. And the wine that you got called El Señor Dan.
Ooh. Caramel notes.
You pump the wine from a tank or barrel into here, and then these are. I used to bottle all my wine just with a hose with gravity and fill up each bottle one by one. One thing I want to demonstrate for you: be very careful. Don't take a huge whiff of this. But this is sodium sulfites. I use it to sterilize my equipment with and then rinse it off really good. But this is what people put in wine and to kill bacteria and yeast and stuff. This is basically mustard gas. If taken to an extreme, it would violate the Geneva Conference. I'm using it to sterilize my equipment with, and other people are putting it, drinking. You know?
So what's your proposal for us? Would we keep something in here to ferment?
We could press it into a 15-gallon thing, like you could take it home. And you're still gonna have to rack it and bottle it and stuff. I think you ought to keep it here, and then maybe you can play around with some blends. If we crush it here, let it ferment here, press it.
And we could do a barrel as well?
Probably so. If you want to do, you want to do a barrel. I've got some barrels. So here's what you do. You can usually cut a few clusters in one before you put them down. And you might have to lean down a little bit.
All right, I'm gonna get my own bucket and I'm gonna get started myself. This reminds me of a quote by Roger Scruton, I think his name is. Wine is not just an object of pleasure, but also of knowledge. But the pleasure is determined by the knowledge. I'm a wise man.
As we're picking them, we try to gather them up and bring them in here because it's really cool in here in the winery and keeps them nice and fresh and cool. And we're getting ready to crush them here in a little while. We're just cleaning the barrel out. We put this on top of the 2x4s. You don't need a must pump. It just drops right into the bin.
What is a must pump?
Well, if we were crushing larger quantities, we would have to get, that's what falls down is the pulp and the must. And that needs to get into your fermentation receptacle or the press. And so it's a different type of pump that handles thicker density of stuff. It's not really juicy yet. So this is the blade that you put in here if we want to destem something. So that just slips right in here, down here. So when we do the red grapes, we want to destem them, so this will be inserted. But we're not going to destem these white grapes because we're going to press them immediately. And when you do that, it hasn't fermented, the skins and pulp hasn't broken down. So you need the stems in there if you're going to press immediately off the skins so that the pulp will have something to push up against in the press. All right, now obviously this is a very dangerous piece of equipment. This roller, if you get a part of a sleeve or something caught in here, you could very easily lose an arm. So I want people to be very careful when we're doing this. It's kind of like the old Polaroid photographs, you know. We just finished the picking, now we've crushed it. You're starting to see a little bit of the picture develop. Yeah. Then we get it pressed and it starts to appearing a little bit more on the film. And then you get it in the bottle and you taste it and it's a complete, beautiful photograph.
Yeah, I guess I took for granted, I didn't think that there was a step in which you just basically break open the skin before you press it.
Yeah, if we wanted to make an orange wine with this, we'd taken the stems off and we just push it in there and we'd come back tomorrow and we'd see that the juice was a little bit fizzy, and then a few days later the berries would start breaking down some and you'd start seeing the cap of the skins and the seeds being pushed to the top, and it would be macerating and breaking down. And the contact with the skins with these white grapes would give it an orange tone. And when this is pressed, you'll see when we start pressing, this is going to look brown. But by the time it's all done and all the sediment stuff drops out, it'll be very straw colored. I'll turn it on its side. The technology of this press, it's primitive, it's brilliant. I mean, it's never out of time. And more importantly, there's just very little to break on it. Yeah. I mean, it's.
And in the event that civilization breaks down, there's no electricity, it'll still work.
Like the Turner broche, mécanique.
There you go.
Muy despacio. Yeah, because if you get going too fast, it starts smushing up, and it just kind of. Yeah, it's got to have kind of like earthspeed, press speed. It needs, you don't want to get faster than it's evolving, you know.
I really like that. You know, I asked people to describe what earthspeed is, and I think that's the best, most succinct conceptual expression of what earthspeed is. It's not trying to move faster than evolution.
It's also another simple way to learn how to walk before you run, and you know, and just stay in cadence with what's around you. I used to tell people one of the reasons I slowed down and downshifted from production law and sought peace was that I felt like I was on a merry-go-round. And when you get on a merry-go-round, you're going around so fast, you can't see what's going on around you. It's just all a blur. And I wanted to stop spinning and see what was going on around me. So I got off the merry-go-round and things started to come into focus better.
Yeah.
I didn't make as much money, but
Yeah.
hey, money ain't everything.
Money ain't everything.
Money's not everything, right?
Money's not everything.
No, it's not everything. Cheers.
What do you get?
Thanks for the help.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Cheers, cheers.
Thanks for the help.
After coming back from Lewis's vineyard, I was inspired to raise up the irrigation from the ground. So I handled that the other day. As you can see, we now have irrigation that's off the ground. Before it was sitting just on the ground, and it made it really, really hard to mow and to get this Bermuda grass because I didn't want to cut the line. So I've raised it up, and now it's a lot easier to get in there and weed. This is the only issue we've been having. This is the grapevine skeletorizer. It's a worm, I think, that becomes a caterpillar of sorts. It becomes a moth. And they come in and they just start eating the leaves. And they're called a skeletorizer because you'll come in and then this is like a whole skeleton. Here, I'll show you one. See, like that. It's like a skeleton of itself. And here's a little larva. But otherwise, they look pretty good. And we've been mitigating the skeletorizers with dish soap water, soapy water, spraying it on there, and I guess they just fall off. It seems to be working, but you got to keep doing it. That's the only issue. But I think they're doing pretty good. And I asked Lewis, I said, Lewis, what do you do about the skeletorizers? He's like, yeah, just hope that they don't eat too much. So he's a very minimal invasive vintner. So he's all about just leaving things be and doing the minimum you have to do. And these are essentially first-year grapes. So we're going into our second year. This is actually the second summer. And I think in the next 2 years, we'll be able to harvest and we'll get some wine out of these.